And thank you for joining us. It's 9 o'clock, it's Saturday, and of course, it is time for our Saturday morning get-together, Sunrise. I am Alero Edu.
And I'm Ayo Makide. Welcome to the program.
So how was your week, Ayo? Well, apart from sitting in the other set, you know.
Well, for one of the things that I like about Christmas, even for a breakfast show like this, is someone that will help you. Did I say Christmas? Saturday
Christmas,
morning.
yes.
Jesus.
Christmas.
That automatically tells you I smell Christmas.
Well, good for you. I don't smell it. I don't see it. And I'm wondering, okay,
well,
so what's Christmas going to be like this year?
If you check, you'll see that for many reasons, one of which I know you want to talk about, the prices are climbing.
Every minute. Forget every day. Every minute.
Prices are climbing. And already, I happened around a shopping mall yesterday. 2 shopping malls, actually, yesterday.
And you saw Christmas trees.
It would have been better if it was just Christmas trees. They were all doing what they called Black Friday.
Oh, that.
And gosh.
That's importation.
Gosh. I couldn't park at one of the shops.
Oh, the stores were full?
Full. I couldn't park at one of the shops. Another one, the queue was humongous.
Really?
And I'm like, when I got to one of the shops, I was using my phone. I just walked right by, like I didn't even know there was... Just pick what I wanted to. So that tells you that, in a way, people are already, well, maybe shop owners or shop managers are already looking in that direction. Okay. How that price is going to affect, how that activity is going to affect the market in Kano, the market in Kaduna, the market in Enugu, the market in Abuja, the market in Mile 12.
In Warri. Please don't forget Warri.
Oh, yeah, my apologies. Forgive me.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, so the market in Okrika and those other places, you know, it's left to be seen. Don't forget that there are some things that are produced at certain areas of the country that move to other parts of the country at festive season. So how that is going to play out, it's completely different. And one of those things that will affect those prices, you want to go somewhere else first?
Cost of fuel.
The cost.
The costs to move those goods from one point to the other.
Exactly.
Which will have to be borne by the poor consumer.
Absolutely.
Oh, well. Christmas is coming, but, Ayo feels it. I don't. And
no, I feel it.
Whole Black Friday idea. Those who own Black Friday did not go and line up to enter the stores because they are aware that there is COVID-19. So they did most of their Black Friday online. But we are in stores, to use the American language, super spreading the virus. Well, we're still thankful that it is not as bad as we were told it was going to be.
Be aware, however,
its way here.
Yeah, be aware, however, that the figures for COVID-19 are rising again.
They are.
246 as of yesterday, and just about 7 days or maybe 12 days back, it was just about 100. And it was lower than 100 at some point. There was a day we didn't have one single case in Lagos. I don't know if we can say that now. So figures are rising, and no thanks to one of these issues that you just mentioned, which is our seemingly random abandon of all the care. Oh, COVID is gone,
all the protocols that we're supposed to follow.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
and talking about figures rising, figures are rising in places like France, and they have, you know, instituted lockdowns again in France and the UK, in Spain. And this is a time where we are opening our airspace. Last week, we were told Air France is now allowed to come in. Lufthansa is now allowed to come in. But in their countries...
There's a shutdown.
There's a shutdown because their figures are rising. So we've just opened the airport for them to, oh, come on, guys, bring it on. We're waiting for COVID-19.
Well, there is still that talk about what's to trade off, the economy or the welfare of the people. So that is it's a very difficult decision, but which one do we prioritize? The life and well-being of our people or the growth or not of the economy? So it's it's
Especially
not...
since they say that we're going to come out of this recession early in 2021.
That's talking about the recession. How about the people?
People, the poor people.
Exactly. So
who are being hit from all sides. Petrol price hike, price of power is going up.
this is the second time you're talking about this petrol price.
My dear, it's even though some big guys up there tell you how many people is affected, how many people have cars in Nigeria, you don't have a car. You don't have to have a car to feel the impact because you move from point A to point B. In my neck of the woods, trips that were 100 naira are now 150, 200. And then you say, yeah, because he's a mechanic, he doesn't own a car. But he still has to get from his house to where he's mechanicking every day.
Let me make that worse, Lero. I had a conversation with the DG of LCCI, and I brought up the issue of SMEs, the micro, small, and medium enterprises.
Yeah.
So you guys who, I said kerosene is deregulated completely, diesel is deregulated completely. So the big guys may not feel the impact of the diesel that much because, I mean, you don't own a huge factory and run on petrogens.
Yeah.
But the small guys, the mechanics, the tailors,
The
the
barbers.
grinder, the barbers, you know, those people on the lower rung of the ladder, they can only use the small gens, 900, you know, kV and all those other smaller gens. Those are the ones that they use, less than 1 kVA.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of generators that these people use, and they run on petrol. Automatically, their prices will rise
Of course.
because the costs, the running costs of production and stuff like that will rise automatically. So the question then you want to ask is, how has this deregulation factored them in? Well, there's another explanation that was given that there's a lot of concessions, tax reliefs, tax reductions. If you don't have a 25 million naira turnover, you don't have this. Fine. However, NSITF tax is there, education tax is there, and so many other smaller taxes. So I'm asking, I'm wondering how all of these, because I mean, when we had the president of the Institute of Secretaries and Administrators, he's like, for every expense, government reduces a significant, I would say significant because for God's sake, 10% is significant for an SME. You know, so, you know, how are those things factored into this policy transition, so to speak, that because, I mean, from what the Minister of State for Petroleum has said, whether or not it is, whether we have completely deregulated or not completely deregulated, I'm still looking for the right words.
Well, I'm glad that you are with us this morning, Ayo, because I saw him on your program. Because you asked him the question which is actually on my mind. And I mean, you played two clips, something he said earlier in the year and something he was saying the night before you had him on, which still left me confused. I didn't understand. Maybe you can explain it better to me. So, is there still subsidy or not?
I will have to ask government. But let me...
But you asked him that question, and I didn't understand his answer.
So, okay, so this is
you
what...
explain
this is
to
the
me what
understanding.
his answer meant.
Good. This is the understanding.
Yes.
Oil marketers, the petrol, you know, sellers.
Yeah.
Let me use them. The fuel stations and dealers do not import the petrol themselves.
Don't we have independent marketers?
The independent marketers buy from NNPC. They all buy from NNPC.
Okay.
The explanation of the minister is the price is deregulated. However, they haven't allowed the independent marketers to import fuel by themselves. It is done by the NNPC. So everyone still buys from the NNPC with all the taxes and all those things that brings the price to whatever it comes to.
Yeah.
So his explanation is that as far as the pump price is concerned, government does not control the pump price anymore.
Market forces.
Market forces.
Okay.
Determined by how much the independent marketers buy from the NNPC at whatever cost. What left
depending
me
on
confused,
whatever margin they want to put on it.
depending on whatever margin they want to. What left me confused was that in the wake of the Pengassan call for a strike, they said when Pengassan, went on strike, there was this speculation that there's going to be another fuel scarcity. So people would go into panic buying. So the NNPC, I think it's NNPC or PPMC, I'm not sure, said we still have
enough
2.9 billion liters of fuel, so there is no cause for alarm. And then that announcement of landing costs, whatever. So I'm wondering, which one are we marking up? Is it the one we already have?
Or the one that's coming?
Or the one that's still at the port, that MPA and customs and everyone is still checking? I don't know yet. So maybe I'll get some education somewhere.
Okay. So the question still remains, is there still petrol subsidy or not? Anyway, let's leave that aside. Now, traffic in Lagos. I don't know what's going on, but in the last 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks, traffic in Lagos has been killing. It's the only word I can use to describe it, in any direction. You want to go from Ikeja to Ikoyi, for instance, it takes you 4 hours. And you drive through and you really don't see the cause of the traffic. Well, a little bit of bad roads here and there where you have to really almost come to a full stop before you can cross some pothole or something on the road. But what I noticed coming here this morning was a major part of the cause of the traffic is commercial bus drivers stopping where they're not supposed to stop. At the foot of a flyover, for instance, there are 2 or 3 buses stopped and picking up passengers. So what are we going to do about discipline in this place?
I think that's the word. I don't know, maybe when we have the official, because I understand the producer was just telling us that we hope to have a chieftain, well, one of the bosses at LASMA to come explain some of this, this third mainland bridge. So on the one hand, of course, is that third mainland bridge issue, which diverted traffic for some people to other parts of the city.
Ooh, going into Lagos on third mainland bridge now. Ooh, wow. Okay. My experience on Wednesday, I got on the bridge at 11 o'clock. I got off the bridge around Adeniji Simpson at 1:30.
Okay.
And that was using the third mainland bridge. It took me 1.5 hours to traverse the bridge, just the bridge.
Well, that bridge is part of our menu this morning. Maybe we should just...
Okay, I'll keep my gunpowder dry then. And let's look at what we're serving our viewers this morning. We're going to begin with the ASUU strike. Oh, that has gone on for long enough, I would say. The deliberations, they've been having meetings with government, of course. We'll talk about that. And it's exactly where are we with the negotiations?
Well, of course, naturally, a number of people have also raised concerns about the ex-governor and deputy governor pensions at the state level. How far so far with that one? What do we need to do to make it better?
Then Flutterwave, they have something which they have called the Payment Protection Promise. Promise? Okay, all right. They'll tell us more about that in the course of the program.
And of course, that third mainland bridge debate. Should I call it that debate? Well, we just debated it, so what's the update? We'll wait to see.
Okay, and then we shall close with the Artist of the Week segment. Our artist, somebody very interesting, born and raised in Nigeria. He moved to the UK because he's half British, I think. But he now lives in Australia. Wow. That's what I call hybrid.
Still the same Europe, you would say, number of people would say.
Australia.
Well, it's just in the neighborhood. Maybe it's just somewhere around the corner.
In the neighborhood.
Just around the corner, you know.
If you left here to go to Australia, you wouldn't get there till Monday.
So in other words, so if I left
Till
in
Monday.
2020, I could arrive in...
2021.
Oh dear.
Yes.
It's still around the corner. Just a longer corner.
If you insist, it's a longer, okay. It's around the longer corner, says Ayo. Right. Okay. So you can be part of the program, of course, via Twitter, email, whatever you decide. Join us in the course of our discussions this morning. We'll just take a short break, come back, and start the program in earnest.
After 8 months, about 8 months after the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, has been on strike over the implementation of IPS, the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System, in the payment of university lecturers' salaries and allowances. Controversy kicked off because ASUU branches in the various universities are divided whether to accept the federal government's offer of 65 billion naira to Nigerian universities to address some of the lecturers' demands or call off the strike, or not. Now, with some branches insisting that government must meet all the demands before the strike is called off. Yes, no. What do you mean? 200 billion. No, sorry, 220 billion. Maybe. The Ahmadu Bello University branch agreed with the government on the 40 billion naira earned academic allowance, EAA. That branch, however, called for a payment of the allowance before the strike would be called off. Alternatively, lecturers at the Federal University of Petroleum Resources in Delta State said negotiations with the federal government must be concluded before the strike is called off. Their chairman, Ezekiel Agbalagba, said the Congress accepted the EAA but rejected the 25 billion naira for the revitalization of the universities. According to him, the latest concession by the federal government is an offer, adding, let it land in our purse first.
A bird in hand.
So we have a situation where ASUU chapters, the University of Maiduguri, Yobe State University, Federal University Gashua also resolved to get a serious commitment before the federal government for the call of the industrial action. There's so many issues to look at from that, but let's begin with the chairman of ASUU in one of the branches of ASUU at Unilag, Mr. Dele Ashiru. He joins us virtually. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mr. Ashiru. So, are you also for or against? Let's begin from there.
Well, good morning. Thank you for this invitation. I'd like to start by saying that ASUU's decisions are not taken at the level of branches. Because we have only one union, branches can express opinion. But when the union is to take a decision, it would aggregate, decisions from branches to arrive at a position. Therefore, whatever they say in Lafayette or in Fort Minna or in Maiduguri or in Unilag will only coalesce into a decision when the National Executive Council meets and look at all these positions with a view to arriving at a decision. So what branches are doing at the moment are merely considering government's proposal, and none of those positions as enumerated by you will amount to a decision of our union until such aggregation is done.
Union now. The national body, that is.
Yes, the national body, because the way decisions are taken in ASUU is bottom up. no president of ASUU can go to any meeting with government to announce a particular decision. But once offers are made, once proposals are made, these proposals are to be debated at the level of branches. And branches are free, our members are free to express their opinion, but only the National Executive Council can take a decision on behalf of the union.
But that sounds a little different from what we heard, what we have heard from time to time. ASUU would meet with the federal government and say, we will get to you after we have spoken with our members. So how does ASUU at the federal, at the center, merge, get feedback from other members, just as you have said? Some of them have expressed themselves, and then this is the position, the various positions that they are having. So if you say the final decision comes from ASUU, how then is that final decision taken without consulting?
The consultations have been made. And what you are reading out are outcomes of our consultations. For a decision to be made, the National Executive Council will meet. The National Executive Council is composed of all branch chairpersons who will take resolutions of their branches to that meeting. It is only after that meeting that a decision of our union can be taken. Members at the branch level, branches at their own level are free to debate and arrive at conclusions. But the union will take a decision when the National Executive Council meets, and the National Executive Council is composed of principal officers of our union and all branch persons of respective universities.
It's interesting that we put it that way, Dr. Ashiru, because so now it's clear that people will have to wait. It would seem like ASUU has taken a position at that meeting. The federal government has also taken a position at that meeting, and the agreement is that nothing is divulged until ASUU has contacted with its organs and taken a decision back to the federal government and saying, we agree. So how soon are people going to have this final information or final conclusion of ASUU, and when is that official statement going to be made that the strike has been called off?
Well, talking about calling off the strike may be presumptive at the moment. Government met with our union yesterday, tried to dot the T's and cross the I's. Like the Honorable Minister of Employment said, our leadership will still have to come back to our members. So between today, Monday, and Wednesday, branch congresses will meet again to consider the report in totality of the engagement of our union with government. And then branches will then take decisions at that level, which the respective chairmen will now take to the National Executive Council meeting if the national leadership so directs. So, just like it happened last week, in the coming week, if the leadership is persuaded by government's offer, directives will be issued to branches. Branches will follow the directives of the union. And if the union is persuaded enough, a meeting of the National Executive Council will then be called to aggregate decisions from branches as a basis for deciding whether the strike should be suspended or not.
Okay, we've since been joined by Dr. Ibrahim Bakare, who's chairman, the LASU branch of ASUU. Good morning, doctor, and thank you for joining us.
Good,
Yeah. Good morning, ma'am.
excuse me,
Dr.
ma'am.
Bakare,
Yeah. How are you, ma'am? Good morning,
I'm
viewers.
very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Dr. Bakare, how is it that we all thought that ASUU was one body, a national body? So how is it that LASU did not join in this strike action?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. It is a very long story, which I think time may not really be able to allow me to, dabble into. But
So, Dr. Bakare, Dr.
hello,
Bakare,
hello,
can you tell it to us
I can
in
hear you.
like 2 minutes?
Yeah. I was about, going into that because whatever I say now concerning our relationship with the national will be seen to be contemptuous. But all I can tell you is that at the Lagos State University, which now ranks as the second best university in Nigeria, we have embraced, peace. We have really taken our internal peculiarities into consideration in ensuring that academic activities remain, very active. And for the question you actually asked, I'm not in the best position to really interpret that. That is left for the, pending court of law case to really, deal with. But I can authoritatively say that we are not part of the, strike, for now. And we remain very active in terms of our academic activities. Even in the heat of COVID, we remain the only active university, in Nigeria. And that has really worked for us because at the Lagos State University, we called ourselves, and asked something that, do we need to go back to our ugly days, or we want peace, tranquility, understanding, maturity, and new technologies for dealing with, union, activities to be the order of the day. And the Congress really agreed that we should toe the path of the peace in terms of how we negotiate the welfare needs of our members, which, the state government. And since the state government, had really answered us, we felt we really need to really work well. Plus very robust, management that we have. Because there's hardly any issue you take to the management, even though it could be very challenging, but we work as a united family at the Lagos State University with all relevant stakeholders to make sure that university remains, flying.
Dr. Ashiru, what do you have to say? What's your response to that response to my question?
Well, as I speak with you, the man who just finished talking, a very good friend of mine, is not the chairman of ASUU in LASU. As he rightly admitted, he is not known to the national leadership of our union. The union has only one charter, which could be given to branches after fulfilling conditions precedent. As I speak with you, there's a case against the colleague who just spoke now in a competent court of law. So what he's doing is even sub judice to come on air and answer to the name chairman ASUU in LASU. He doesn't represent, he doesn't approximate that description. As I speak with you, the LASU branch is under some form of sanction from the national leadership. And that is the reason why they are not part of this strike. And somebody who is not part of a struggle cannot come on air and be eulogizing a university where basic scholarly and academic ethics are being violated, on a daily basis, and who would eventually become a beneficiary of the struggle of others. So please let it be known that Dr. Bakare is not known to the leadership of ASUU. A case has been instituted against him and some other impostors in LASU, and it is sub judice for him to come on air to answer to that name, which he has just answered. He is not the chairman of ASUU in LASU. He doesn't have the charter of ASUU, and he cannot come on this respected and distinguished channel to impersonate.
All right, Dr. Bakare, given the value of the fact that the case, just as you have said, is in court already, without speaking to the details of the case, so we also are not culpable, he has also made reference to the fact that, ASUU, LASU is likely to be a beneficiary of the issues, of the struggle, so to speak, as he also rightfully called it. Do you want to respond to him?
Yeah, it is quite unfortunate that my dear friend has only allowed, himself to be very contemptuous of the, case already awaiting attention in court. You would have seen that my language has been very, very civil. My language has been very, very mature. You see, we need to be very careful about the way we manage ASUU at all levels. And why? You cannot begin to harass academic colleagues who had long really given all it takes to ASUU to survive. I would like to ask my dear friends a question that the ASUU National we're talking about today, or even ASUU at any other branch, as the case may be, has it been, funded, activated, or assiduously, taken to the level it is today by the actions of the very few? You see, these are some of the things we keep questioning. And it is very, vital for us to have appreciative understanding of what the key ingredients of modern unionism today entails. Unionism does not really entail, personal attack against, people. It does not really entail, propaganda. It does not entail bringing down or puncturing the self-esteem of others. In LASU, our ASUU is very civil. Our ASUU is very peaceful. And if you will recall, I did say that there is a case that is pending in a court of law. Whatever we say here, I tell you, could be taken against us. In LASU today, we are the second best in the world, in Nigeria. This is a fact that no one can really take away from us. In Africa today, LASU is the 11th best university in Africa. In the world today, we have surpassed the University of Lagos, the big universities. And why? Because we have fashioned out better technologies, better scholarly, distinctions for dealing with academic matters. And that's the reason why we remain peaceful.
Okay, Dr. Bakare, just a moment.
We have redefined governance.
Dr. Bakare, just one moment. Let me ask Dr. Ashiru this. So, if ASUU at the center does not recognize Dr. Bakare as the chairman, and ASUU at the center believes that ASUU LASU has been suspended. Who then does ASUU at the center recognize as the chairman of ASUU in LASU?
Well, the chairman that is recognized in LASU as the ASUU chairman is Dr. Isaac Akinloye Oyewumi.
Also on
However,
suspension with his association, right?
No, he was illegally dismissed by the authorities of LASU. The case is in court. The tradition of our union is that if our leaders in branches are illegally dismissed, they will remain as branch chairpersons until the case is dismissed in court.
Okay. Now, there's one other issue. Just a moment, Dr. Ashu, so we can guide the conversation. I remember, I mean, it's all out there in public that part of the prayers of ASUU to the federal government is about state universities, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What's the issue that ASUU at the center have with the federal government and state universities?
Okay, thank you very much. Our union observed that the rate of proliferation of state universities, if not checked, will create problems of monumental proportion. Like our president once retorted, governors are beginning to turn creation of universities into constituency projects. You find a situation where a governor cannot fund a university appropriately. That same governor establishing 2-3 more universities. For example, in Ogun State, in Ondo State, in Ekiti State, in Kano State, you find state governors creating universities as they choose. Our union believes that to have a functional education, universities must be properly funded. If you cannot fund a university, why create 2-3 more? Therefore, one of the issues, contentious issues in this ongoing strike action is the fact that we are asking that a platform be created for our union to engage with visitors to state universities, which are the governors, on how to manage and sustain the universities that they have. And beyond that, the revitalization fund that we talk about, state universities are beneficiaries from that revitalization fund. And LASU in particular had benefited extensively from, monies brought into LASU from the struggle of the national leadership. So what has been agreed is that the National Universities Commission Act will be reviewed in such a way that it will now make the processes for creation of state universities more stringent. And I think from the last brief we got from the national leadership, we are satisfied with the progress that has been made so far between the NUC and our union on the matter. That is the bit about state universities as it affects the ongoing strike action.
Okay. Well, Dr. Ashiru and Dr. Bakari, let's take a moment to take a few messages. When we return, this conversation will continue.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Dr. Ashiru, I have a tweet here from Festus Akimboyewa, who says that it doesn't seem like the word compromise is in ASUU's dictionary, that ASUU should try and actually compromise with the government and make sure that things are sorted out early enough for children to go back to school.
Do you want me to react to that?
Yes.
Well, you know, when a strike is this protracted, people become frustrated in a way. It is not true that the word compromise is not in ASUU's dictionary. And I will give you instances of several compromises that have led us to the situation that we are at the moment. Bear in mind that the reason why we are on this strike is because of government's failure to implement an agreement it signed with us in 2009. And we have embarked on no fewer than 5 strikes, which are products of compromises to get to where we are today. Last year, on the 7th of February 2019, government signed a memorandum of action. By a memorandum of action, it means government promised that it's going to do A, B, C in XYZ timeline. Between 7th February 2019 and the 8th of March 2020, that we commenced a warning strike, government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria had not implemented one item on the memorandum of action. Isn't that compromise? Now, Nigerians are beginning to say we should compromise. If we agree to compromise now and government reneges on its promise again, who are we to run to help us claim allowances that we have not received since 2014? This is 2020. Who are we going to run to help us renegotiate our salaries such that a professor who had worked for more than 25 years with the highest degree will stop going home with a paltry 416,000 naira in a month? Who is the person in Nigeria whose allowances have not been paid since 2014? And now all we are getting from government is promises. We shall. If we go by this love for compromise and we compromise and listen to government, will it be appropriate for our union to resume another strike 1 year after if all these promises are unfulfilled? So I think that Nigerians should understand that ASUU is not belligerent. ASUU is not an unfeeling organization. ASUU takes its decision out of painstaking analysis of objective conditions. And that is why you will recall that when you started this program, you will hear some of our members saying that these agreements must be fulfilled before we call off the strike. So the point that I'm trying to make is that we have compromised with government. Even in this, we were demanding for 200, a lockdown, they cannot afford the money. We said, okay, pay 50%, 110. That's a lot of compromise. You are owing us end academic allowances for 6 years. Where you say you will pay for only 3 years. We say, okay, those are compromises. But at the issue of such compromise is government's willingness to faithfully implement agreements that they reach with our union. And I think that that is the issue that we need to address.
Still talking about those compromises, Mr. Beg your pardon, Dr. Ashiru, you remember that, maybe just bring us up to speed here. How far or how much of all of your demands has the federal government met? You've talked about the earned academic allowances. You've talked about the university revitalization, some. Bring us up to speed. How far the government has done about that? How far with the visitation panel? How far with, the state universities issue that you raised earlier? Those conditions, those requests, those demands that ASUU made of government, in the order or in whatever number, in whatever order you want to put them, how much of them has the federal government lined up with? And what are the timelines, if any?
Thank you very much. Let's start with funding for revitalization. That is still contentious because the demand of our union is pay 50% of what you promised. Government is offering, as we have read in the papers, 30 billion. Our union will meet in due course to consider that. The second is the renegotiation of the 2009 agreement that will deal with conditions of service. We are told at the last but one meeting that the government team has been reconstituted. They have received their letters. But up till today, government is still yet to make it public. So we will require that government makes its team public so that Nigerians can know and our members can know who we are negotiating with on behalf of government. On end academic allowances, government has offered to pay 40 billion, which is arrears of end academic allowances that are being owed our members. I think that there's no much contention on this because since government said all unions in the university will have a share of the 40 billion, I think that from what we have read in the papers, that seemed to be agreeable to our members. On the visitation panels, we were told that the visitor to Federal University, President Muhammadu Buhari, had constituted the visitation panels. What is being awaited is for it to be gazetted. Up till now, their names have not been gazetted. Not only that, they have not been made public. We're thinking that since this doesn't require any financial implication, government can go ahead and make these announcements and put paid to the issue. On state universities, it was agreed that the NUC Act be reviewed in such a manner that will make more stringent processes for establishing a university. As at the last meeting, our union was satisfied with the progress that has been made so far on that. So I think that the only issue that is contentious as I speak with you, two of them, the renegotiation of the 2009 agreement, which government must make its own team public, and the issue of revitalization fund for the universities. And I think that those two can be resolved once government becomes more interested in bringing this strike to an end.
Okay, we need to wind down now. Victor Owo says the Nigerian government knows how to do quick fix, not going to the root cause. This cannot go on at 60. The ASUU / government showdown must end. Now, Dr. Bakare, as we wind down, I would like your thoughts on the way forward, because it's about time the children went back to school. People have lost interest in what exactly ASUU is fighting for. Their interest now is that children should return to school. And this hiatus, permanent hiatus that keeps going on because of ASUU strikes, must come to an end. So when you enter university, you know exactly how many years you're going to spend in university, like we did when we went to university.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you very much. Let me set the record straight. The ASUU branch of the Lagos State University.
In 1 minute, Dr. Bakare. In 1 minute.
It's not on strike, but as part of the solutions to the problems, I think it is important for the relevant stakeholders to show understanding on this issue so that the state of education in this country could move to the next level. And on top of that, you cannot recognize SAC members of the union. That is what ASUU National has been doing to ASUU. and injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. You see, the laws establishing, ASUU is so sacrosanct that you need to develop the branch before you talk about the national. The branch really elected us in the light of years of neglect of ASUU national concerning, the case of ASUU LASU. So any other statements, no matter how, challenging it may be, should not be made against ASUU LASU members, because my dear friend over there from the University of Lagos does not really understand the intricacies, the challenges, and the dynamics of
one thing that we can pray, beg your pardon, Dr. Bakari, one thing we can pray is that within the shortest possible time, every issue be resolved so that we can have one body that is fostering the development of the minds of the people we call the leaders of Nigeria tomorrow. But we have to thank you very much for being a part of this conversation, Dr. Ibrahim Bakare of ASUU in LASU, and Dr. Dele Ashiru, who is chairman of ASUU at the University of Lagos. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and thoughts.
Thanks so much for granting us audience.
Yeah, so back to you.
Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation. Do join us. Welcome back. That was a very apt song indeed, if you ask me. Who am I going to ask?
And there are still so many questions to ask anyway.
Many questions. Okay. Now, a few months ago, the Center for Human and Socio-Economic Rights, CHSR, made a call to state legislatures to repeal pension laws for ex-governors and their deputies in order to improve citizens' welfare. In line with this, some state governors have swung into action with plans to abolish the payment of pension packages to former governors. Wow. Well, this has been talked about plenty, and in some cases, people just were, as they say in French, bouche bée, as in, oh, you mean ex-governors are collecting this kind of monies? A number of them are in the Senate collecting those huge amounts we hear. Note, I said we hear about that they pick up at the Senate, 15 million naira a month or something like that. And in addition to that, they are still picking up monies as ex-governors of X and Y state.
What's interesting about that is it's not only this center for this center that is raised an issue about it. Yeah, Serap has also gone to court about it, and theirs was about this particular double payment, so to speak, and they got a judgment. And the Office of the Attorney General swung into action, asked Serap to send them a list, a comprehensive list of the states and the officials that have been collecting double. Of course, Serap, replied and all of that, and prayed for this that you're saying, that these ex-governors' pension laws, that the Attorney General's office should do what they can to repeal it. Is that why some state governors are now going to their state assemblies and saying, repeal these laws? I don't know.
Well, once again, if you ask me. Well, to look at this with us this morning, it's my pleasure to welcome Dende Ario, who is a...
Moved your line, the name. That's the power behind the name.
I'm sorry. Oladende
Beautiful.
Ario, who is a public affairs analyst.
My darling
And
sister.
he is here with us in the
I miss
studio.
you.
Good morning.
No thanks to Kuru and engagements. AY, good morning.
Your Highness.
And joining us virtually, we have Malaki Ugumadu, former president of the CDHR. Hello, Malaki.
Well, thank you for having me again. A pleasure.
Thank you. Well, we also have Mr. Lanre Suraj, who's also a public affairs analyst. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning, panelists.
Yes. Let me begin with you, since we have you here in the studio, as they say, dead in the hand. So, what are your thoughts about these, should I say, benefits that governors and the deputies get when they leave office?
Thank you very much. To start with, the fact that the state assemblies could pass that law, for me, is a reflection of there being mere rubber stamps. Because if they had any mind of their own, there is nowhere under the sun that anybody with his head on his neck and walking without sawdust in his head instead of brain will pass such laws. We are talking of a country where people have served for 35 years and more, and then they're on the queue, dropping dead while going to show up and to do what they call "I'm alive" to collect pittance. Some never got paid.
Well, when you say, you didn't expect that, anyone with their heads clean right would do that. Don't forget that those people were elected into office by millions of people in their states.
Unfortunately, they didn't know those who elected them. Elected them blindly. They didn't know who they were elected. Who they elected. They had no hand in picking them. The parties imposed them on us, and they said, these are our candidates. To that extent, there was a technical disenfranchisement, okay? We have been picking them. So don't now come back and say, we elected them, okay? We had no alternative. If we had, some of them, we would have elected them. You can see, what a lot of people have become now, that we are now sure that 2023, we won't vote for them, because they've shown their true color. Now, back to the issue at hand. For a governor who has served for 8 years, with the perquisites of office that they are entitled to, with certain expenditures that cannot be queried that they had handled, with contracts that they have awarded either to friends and cronies, of course, which will have earned them some percentages, like it or not, I think they should have been made enough to take a clean walk away from the treasury. And I'm talking of states.
Come on, Mr. Rio. We'll just take a short break, come back, and you will finish that thought.
Okay.
Hello and welcome. I am Manny. This is The Chat.
Agriculture is the backbone of our economy. And the earlier we encourage students to come in, the better.
He was going to be a prime minister after Tafawa Balewa.
The NFA used to go and buy jerseys from Ojo Elegba.
I'm a strong advocate for women getting an education.
Make sure you get your facts correctly.
Never, never you run away. Yeah. No, I didn't run away. I only left.
Girl children must face their own destiny.
The unforgettables and a lifetime to remember. The Chat.
Showing Sundays, 1:30 p.m. on DSTV and 9:30 p.m. on Channels 24.
Don't forget.
We'll be sending an executive bill to this House, which will appeal that the House will help to repeal the public office holder payment of pension to former governors and deputy governors, because of our resolve that we need to lead from the front and we need to show this with Lagos State. We'll be sending this executive bill to this noble House. It is our firm belief that with the drilling revenue and the appurtenant inflationary growth rates, that we need to come up with innovative ways of keeping the cost of governance at a barest minimum while endangering the spirit of selfless service in public space. Mr. Speaker, I'm presenting a budget size of 1,155,22,413,005 naira and 82 kobo.
Welcome back. Mr. Ario, just conclude on that thought so that we can take the opening salvos of the other panelists.
So, for someone who have now said for maximum of 8 years, to now deserve a house in Lagos, Abuja, or whatever, is inhuman. With all the allowances, imagine paying cook for 5 million naira, I mean, per month or thereabout. Is all they do every day eating?
Don't forget, it's not only cooks. All the
whatever,
house staff,
I mean,
stewards,
yes, whatever.
Aid and
now,
security.
the danger in it is this. There are states who have had 3 past governors who are in the Senate now, and they still collect this same pension emoluments and all of that.
But imagine, some of them have said that they do not, they are former governors, but they do not collect anything.
That is what they told us.
I mean, it's part of, just as I said
earlier. The only person who has come out publicly to declare that they can go and check the records is Babatunde Raji Fashola. There was a governor that said, as far as the state is concerned, they are not looking in that direction. Let me tell you, if care is not...
Bukola Saraki has also come out to say he's not collecting
I've not had it. Let me tell you more. He should refund what he earlier collected, to be fair to himself. The last word, please. The last word.
Okay. You can't have the last word now.
Okay, on this thinking. Let it not happen that a time will come when 10 ex-governors of a given state will be alive, collecting the humongous pensions, whereby when the month will end, the total IGR and Abuja booty that they will collect will just be shared with the governors, and then there will be nothing to even buy paracetamol for the citizenry.
Malaki, governors in 26 out of the 36 states of the Federation have presented and passed executive bills for laws to be passed for their own stupendous jumbo pensions. Your thoughts on this?
Well, what more can I say? Other than to, first of all, thank Nigerians who have remained alive to what it is that is supposed to be the entitlement in the country. Again, to thank the civil society groups that have taken the proactive steps to challenge this very obnoxious, retrogressive, and if you like, existential piece of legislations across board in a way that has now crystallized in the kind of resentments that we have seen, culminating into proactive actions by the governor of Lagos State in particular. I think they need to be commended, because take away those disagreements, those refusal to accept these kind of oppressive pieces of legislations. I don't think you will have enough momentum, enough groundswell of pent-up anger, enough disenchantment in the polity to now activate the action that some of these public and state actors are taking. So they deserve commendation. But above all, I thank the media for putting the issues on the front burner. And I think the issues are quite clear. The issue of the law and the issue of the morality of the law. And how do I mean by this? It is that whereas the state itself has come to express itself in the form of legislation, albeit by representatives of the people, as we claim, there was indeed a disconnect big enough to exacerbate the cleavage between the governed and the governors. But it took the people whose views were articulated by these civil society organizations, pushed so hard, up to the point where some went to the court, seeking the interpretation of the court to adjudicate on the propriety or otherwise of pieces of legislation that classifies or stratifies the society along the tiers of those who have governed us, many of whom have now been found to have looted the country, not governed the country, and those who are the victims of failures of leadership, many of whom are persons who are entitled to pensions. They never received it. They're dropping dead on queue. So, and that's why I talked about the morality of that law. Yes, the law is there because it is contained in our legislative or legislations. And that is what gives it validity. But the legitimacy of that law is whether it conforms with the need, the desire of the people. And we found these respective pieces of legislation that gave humongous pension allowances to state actors. In short, the poverty of the situation is that many of these governors mainly served one term, and one term is just 4 years. And if somebody served the state for just 4 years and is having the kind of allowances that we hear about, 2 houses in the best cities of where he served, in the Federal Capital Territory, cars to be changed within periods of 4 years, whether they are used or not, millions of taxpayers' money deployed to paying their domestic serfs, whether they have domestic serfs or not, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, just a moment.
That
yeah, you've opened quite, well, but let me take this to Mr. Suraj, and you all may want to respond to it. The morality and the legality of the issues notwithstanding, is there any merit in the conversation, in the intention to sustain to a level the lifestyle of the governors after they leave office? Let me give you examples. You remember the Second Republic chairman of the ruling party at the time, the National Party of Nigeria, Chief Adisa Akinloye. I don't know when the last time was that anyone heard from him and whatever life. At some point, what I understood was that the kind of lifestyle he was living was way too abysmal. As we speak, from the last information that I had, the last governor of, one of the former governors of Oyo State, Chief Omololu Olunloyo, isn't particularly living in the most comfortable of times right now. And I don't know how many other governors like that all other former governors in Nigeria, all over the country like that. What kind of lifestyle would you suggest or would you propose that we institute such that those who served the nation, whichever way or at whatever level, at least a measure of consideration is given to their lives after office?
Thank you very much. This is very critical and very important, but I would really want to appeal that I try to assist us in putting this in proper perspective. We shouldn't just lose focus of the most recent development that has actually prompted what happened in Lagos State. Let me remind you that, like you rightly said, about 23 of these states are already into this loop of this bogus, illegal, and I should say illegal pension that are granted to governors, deputy governors, that some of them even wanted to push to the extent of even speakers and members of the houses of assembly and even the National Assembly. But the fact of the matter is, if you remember Samfara, the new governor was the first to start with a repeal of this so-called pension. Unfortunately, most of all the other governors, they ignored it. The setup action was also an opportunity for them to act, but they also ignored that. I can tell you that the action actually started long before now. We were in court more than 4 years ago, suing all those governors. Myself, my organization, and a number of other organizations have been in court. They all sent their attorney generals to come and defend, their illegal law in court. But the NSAS, which is unfortunate, we reduce the impact of that NSAS protest to just, the killing and the rest of that. What happened in Lagos and the action and decision of the governor of Lagos State was a byproduct of that NSAS protest. It has compelled many of the governors to actually come out and also give account of how they want to utilize the money. So Lagos State was in the focus. And unfortunately, I also saw the video where the immediate past governor, no, the one before the last, Babatunde Raji Fashola, also came out to say that he felt morally challenged to actually accept that pension. So he has not benefited from that. So technically speaking, the only governor from Lagos State that has benefited from that has been Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And that becomes even a moral challenge for him and for the current governor. So let us not just assume that things happened, without a foundation. The foundation for the recent one now, Kwara has said is going to follow suit, and we need to ensure that we compel all other states governors to follow the trend of what has happened in Lagos, and Kwara has promised to make sure that the other states are morally challenged and politically also challenged to reverse this so-called bogus pension law. And coming down to your question, the action to create a very conducive, secured, and more or less convenient, retirement age for our governors is determined by the governors. So if the governors are able to create free education and qualitative and accessible education for the young people and for the children of everybody, they are able to provide standard healthcare facilities for everybody, irrespective of your status. We have motorable roads, not death traps that we're coping with now. And the cost of living is reduced to the barest possible minimum. They will have nothing to fear. And on the vacation of office, you can conveniently just retire to wherever because you know that the facilities and infrastructures are there to take care of yourself. But when you unfortunately ignore many of these things, accumulate what you don't know. So some of the governors that accumulated millions or hundreds of millions in the last 20 years or 15 years is not of the same value as at today. So what can buy you an international ticket as at that time might not be more than what you would use to buy a ticket to Ghana or even within Nigeria. So when you are stealing today and you're destroying the economic base of the country and also the power of the currency, that it has lost its value almost from 30-something naira to $1 now to 300 and something or about 400 naira to $1. That is how the value of your stolen wealth will depreciate. And that is the only way that you can secure any future for anybody. It is not about stealing. So when you steal, you will have to spend. But when you build, you can retire to it. And for me, that is the only way. But because many of them are too myopic and so sensitive, selfish, they only think about themselves. So they want to just steal enough for themselves, their children, and their future. But unfortunately, the other ones that succeeds them are also doing the same and eroding the value that they have left in terms of infrastructure.
All right, Mr. Suraj. Now, just a moment. Yes, but now you answer the question. He has talked about those who, as he said, stole, blindly and didn't particularly consider other people. How about those who performed meritoriously in office?
No. Your question is in very bad taste, and I'll tell you why. Whether you're a governor, president, minister, or whoever, you are first among equals. Okay? Get it. It's not a family inheritance like obership, that whether you are a charlatan or you are trained or not trained, because you are in that family, you become an oba, and then you go and begin to fumble. But in this case, you presented yourself for service to the people. When I say service, I mean to better their lot, i.e., if they had no roads before, you will give them roads. Power was not functioning before, there will be power. No schools were doing well and were depending on private schools, they will be corrected. If all of those things were done, everybody, without regard to whether you have occupied a political office before, whether you are MD of Nigerian breweries or whether you are a messenger in channels, If life had been so made abundant, nobody will have cause to complain. I have a neighbor where I live. He served as a trained man, a cleaner in London for years. He's here in Nigeria, but perhaps every 6 months he goes to London to withdraw from his pension. Okay? Without any, no issue, no trouble. Why? The system is in place to take care of him for as long as he's alive. But here we are, people not doing their right thing, the appropriate thing. Exchange rate as of yesterday, dollar was 485 naira and pound 600 naira. I mean, so how do you now say?
That's why public officers need to steal
No,
more.
but you see,
because the value of their naira is.
And unfortunately, it is wrong. The headmaster, the school principal, the civil servant, everybody, including you and I here, the system should have been brought together in a way that we should be assured of peace and basic comfort in our old age. I had a personal one-on-one with Mwali Mudulos in Tanzania. I left here to go and visit him because I was reading about him. Let me meet this man. Nyerere had no house when he was leaving that seat as president. They built him a moderate 3-bedroom bungalow. That was where he lived and died. But come back home. Where do you find that? The moment you get into government, everything changes overnight. We cannot continue like that. Like my brother said, NSAS was not just about ending the help. No. Yeah. It's basically to end everything that is not making life meaningful for us as Nigerians. As we speak today, thousands are leaving the country. Professionals trained with Nigerian Commonwealth, instead of staying here and making a future, they've seen that they will never amount to anything if they stay, and then they are gone. They ran away. When that happened with my eyes, I had to go and be begging my friends to raise money for me. And they were telling me that, look, I didn't mean you were in Canada or the US, you simply walk to the hospital as a senior citizen, and at no price, I will get the best. That is what we should be demanding for. On another platform, I said it on Independence Day, that we, the voters, the people, should come up with the resolve to demand for results.
Okay. Malaki, this democracy that
I think we should
practice,
take that after the break. Oh,
yes.
Don't you think so?
Oh, yes. I do apologize. We need to take a short break now. Thank you for staying with us. Now, let me take this to Malaki. Malaki, this democracy that we practice, it's imported. But we don't seem to be practicing it like it is practiced in the places from which we copied it. For instance, I saw a video the other day of Angela Merkel of Germany with her grocery basket in the grocery store doing her grocery shopping. In my country, I don't think the ministers go to I don't even think they know where the grocery stores are. They will have plenty of servants who will do that on their behalf. And remember when Boris Johnson was the mayor of London, when he was riding his bicycle to work? I mean, everything in our country seems to be done in excess. If you're a minister, you must have 10 black SUVs. You must have Hiluxes, maybe 5 of them. I mean, what is wrong with us? Don't we know what is called moderation and other people? The people are watching me. They are starving, and they see me in a convoy of 5 jeeps every day. How are they going to not want to kill me?
Well, I wish that those are actually the parameters of democracy. Nigeria again would have recorded another world record. Would have achieved another world record, in the negative. Well, if you speak about the democracy, you are invariably referring to the place of the people in governance. That's a summary of it, besides the widely accepted best definition of democracy, which is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. If you flip that around, what you will get is that it is a government or a governance that is people-centered, people-driven. So when you alienate the people, either in terms of what they are entitled to or in terms of their roles in the same government, you are not talking about democracy. So how does this relate to the issue at hand? It is that part of the established components and ingredients of democracy is a respect for the fundamental.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, we lost Malaki there.
Well, just for a moment, I'm sure. Okay, well, Mr. Okay, he's back. I think he's back. I think he's back.
If the rights of Nigerian under Section 42. Oh, sorry, was I off? I didn't know. I was making the point that if a cardinal component or ingredient of democracy is a respect and promotion of the fundamental rights of the citizens of that country, and you have as one of such fundamental rights the right not to be discriminated against under Section 42, then these numerous pension laws that we have, which are being challenged and thrown overboard now, were some of those vestiges of discrimination. Because how are you going to justify the Pension Reform Act 2014, which repealed the 2004 Act, against the entitlements of governors and deputy governors as contained in the various legislations that doled out these entitlements that we are talking about? So if you are rigorous about the law, as some of us look at it, you're already talking of a society that discriminates against itself. To say that once you are a governor or a deputy governor, it is immaterial whether you brought poverty, you brought disenfranchisement, you brought deprivation, you brought penury on the people. You will be entitled to state resources to the detriment of the people. That for me is also discriminatory. So, Comrade Surai, please, I think that there was no mix-up really. We had all three of us panelists managed to build a consensus around the groundswell of citizen responsibility that led to what we are seeing now. In my introductory remarks, I talked about the resentment of the people, the effort of the civil society, particularly those who went to court to directly challenge the propriety or otherwise of it. We are aware that all of those culminated into what has elevated this issue as a moral burden on state actors. And they are taking steps. Our responsibility now is to further deepen and strengthen and agitate that every other state that has not cued or taken a cue of what is already happening is meant to do so. In short, it was gratifying that beyond the express relief sought by some of you who went to court, the trial judge in the case in Lagos, Gunto Iba, I suppose, came out with an additional demand on attorney generals of the respective states to ensure that these laws are reviewed. I mean, this is judicial activity as far as I'm concerned, and such people should be commended. So, my sister, the thresholds of democracy are known. You're talking about the rule of law. You're talking about the independence of the media, which is mass media. You're talking about the independence of the judiciary, the independence and impartiality of the judiciary. You're talking about involvement of the civil society, which is what makes it participatory and brings about legitimacy to government. You're talking about the role of political institutions and so on and so forth. So the kind of democracy we are practicing in Nigeria today is such that if we don't rejig it, if we don't tweak it, if we don't realign it with what we need today, the EndSARS protest is merely going to be the starting point. And I concede completely that a lot has happened as an aftermath, even benefit, immediate benefit of the EndSARS protest. I'm talking about EndSARS protest and not the convolution that attended it.
Okay. Mr. Surajo, Festus Akimboyewa says that in the UK, political office holders live in the community. Some even live in council flats. Who will deliver us from ostentatious lifestyle in our political leaders? That is the question that he's asking. But as we said earlier, if he asks me, well, I'm asking you, Suraj.
Thank you very much. I think part of the thing that we should really understand that it is not about Nigerian politicians from the onset. It is something that found its way into our style of life and also consciously and deliberately introduced by these governors and political office holders. They create an insecure situation, a lot of insecurity in the country, and at the same time, because they bring ammunitions to their political thugs to fight one another. And after election, they leave those ammunitions in the hands of those guys to then commit themselves into either armed robbery or militancy or banditry and what you call Boko Haram and the rest of that. These are creations of the political office holders and politicians. But when we go, I am fortunate to actually attend the same school with the son of the former governor of Lagos State, Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, Ilupeju Grammar School. And the man would drive to our school. Coincidentally, the school, it's still behind his house, his private house, which also doubles as his residential house at that time. He would drive with just his, I think it was Toyota Crown, one white Toyota Crown, with just a bike as the outrider. And then he would go back to his office. On retirement or at the vacation of office, he went back into that. I was still in that house about 6 years ago. I met him in that same house, and the man was living comfortably with himself because that was where I came from. So someone who was an ordinary teacher becoming a governor, you want to get out of the office and then become a Dangote or an Otedola. It's by virtue of being in office. And let me also tell you, so that we can know, many of the governors are funded on daily basis to the tune of the cost of the fueling of the vehicles, the cost of all the personnel and staff and aides that are working with them, the cost of their clothing, the cost of their feeding, almost to the tune of about 50 people, is funded for feeding 3 times a day, every day, for this public office holder, especially the governors. That is not part of the security vote. I think that was one of the reasons why the former governor of Osun State, Aregbesola, said he also felt the moral burden to actually collect salaries as a governor after having enjoyed all those perks of office. So as a governor, you are not even paying for anything while you are in office, in addition to the salary that is paid to you. So when you want to get out of office, what form of security do you also then need? You want them to continuously serve you. Like you said, in the UK, it's not just about in the UK. Obama, when going for holiday as a president, would pay for his flights. And the last time that somebody joined, an unofficial person joined on one of the trips, he was made to pay for the cost of flying the person to wherever. As Joe Biden has just won the election in the US, the salary is already determined. The cost of staying in White House will be deducted from his salary. The same thing goes to the cost of food and the rest of that. But here, like I said, they create food scarcity, they create unemployment, they create insecurity, and then use the state fund to then start taking care of that. So they completely bastardize the healthcare system. And you will now see the governor or any former governor in a state like Akwa Ibom being entitled to about 100 million naira on annual basis for medical treatment for himself and the family. These are creations deliberately by these governors to actually ensure that they have justification for this kind of pension law.
All right, Mr. Suraj, some also would ask, with the repeal of this law at the various state levels, automatically would come a reduction in the revenue, in the spending of the state. That is to be expected. From your understanding, from whatever analysis that we may come up with, how significant, just asking, how significant would that cost be in reducing the overhead of the states?
It is going to be as significant as talking about nothing less than about 30% of the cost of some of the states on annual basis. That is the cost of some of the overheads. Because you are talking about the governor, you are talking about the deputy governor. So if you are unlucky and you have governors that are in states that have former governors that are still alive to be 5, 6, and the rest of that. So imagine where you have to build a house, especially in that of the Lagos state, a house in Abuja, a house in Lagos for the former governor, the medical trip abroad for them or anywhere in the world, and also 4 members of the family. Also, where you have about 4 vehicles that have to be renewed, I think every 2 years or thereabout, and you have salary paid for the security, the chef, and also the personal assistant, and the rest of that on annual basis. It is really going to be significant that can actually, on the focus, and that we can do in a matter of 5 years. If that is consciously focused on either education, healthcare services, water. We don't even have any state dealing with pipe-borne water again. You only have Ministry of Water Resources. You have allocation for the Ministry of Water Resources. You don't even see water. Almost every Lagosian provide water for themselves, either through wells or boreholes. So if you focus on any of those areas, with whatever recovery you are covering from the repeal of that law, I can tell you significantly in the next 10 to 15 years, most, if not all of our social areas of life will witness a major improvement.
So Raj, let me help you there. Befitting mansions built for them by the state government in their state capital and either in Lagos or Abuja. And the minimum recommended is a 5-bedroom house. Then furniture allowance for befitting furniture of the aforementioned property, and this furniture will be changed every 3 to 4 years. 100 million as gratuity, 100% of current basic salary of the incumbent and deputy. That is full salary for former governor for life. Brand new Jeeps and Hiluxes, which will be replaced every 3 years. 300% basic salary for car maintenance. 300% of basic salary for utilities, NEPA, water. 5 million monthly to pay for steward, cook, driver, personal aid, and security. Female security is also required for spouses. 100% of basic salary for entertainment. Medical allowances within the country and overseas for an unspecified number of family members for life. And it even applies to those who have more than one wife. I rest my case.
let me ask you this. Mr. Arya, let me ask you this.
Please do.
I wanted people to really understand when we say repeal, when there's that call for a repeal of that law, so that people understand that, okay, it is quite something.
Not sustainable.
No. I mean, not just that it is not sustainable, it is significant.
The state may have money.
30% of any budget, Alero,
is a lot
of money. Yeah. Now,
Lagos budgeted what?
1 trillion.
1 trillion. Okay.
Now,
30% of 1 trillion.
Please don't tempt me, please.
Okay. I do apologize.
You can't become governor. Go and sit down.
I don't have to become governor to be tempted. Now,
deputy is enough for you.
I don't want to be deputy governor. I just want to be, there's a new one now. office of the friend
of the governor.
Let me ask you this. Is there any system we can initiate to ensure that these monies that we save up, and Mr. Ogumadu, you would also respond to this, that these monies will save up from this repeal is not re-budgeted for other things, but actually put to good use? In other words, how do we entrench that system of governance that will strengthen our institutions to work for everyone, including the governors and deputy governors when they leave office?
Now, to start with, I've always said it, that in Nigeria, when we import any concept or idea, we rework the meaning to suit our purpose. In Nigeria, democracy is not God of the people, for the people, by the people. Okay? It's God of the people, of some people for themselves, and that is where it ends. What we enjoy here is tokenism. We sell oil, we do all sorts of things, the country makes money, and the people, they get very little that is next to nothing. Whereas those who are supposed to be our resource managers, you see them in broad daylight living large than you can ever imagine. What you are saying will be a mirage. So much money was recovered by EFCC. Till today, we have no figure to say this is the total amount.
And we don't know where the money
Not only that, how the money was deployed. I mean, it was in it's an illegality that some people stole money, you recovered the money. Ordinarily, going by the constitution, the money should be appropriated before it can be spent. But tell me, where is that? And that's the reason why I said the voters should resolve to demand for results. In budgeting, I'm over 60 years. This is the only country where we celebrate budget reading, and then we count them with some lousy title, budget of renewal, of development, or whatever. And by the time the year come to an end, there will be nothing that's been renewed, if not poverty. Oh, yes. Now, let me also tell you, in coming up with budgets, what determines what goes into the budget? For instance, I live in a community where we have no good roads, we don't have water. In an estate of about 500 houses, every house has a borehole, which for me is a waiting ecological disaster. It may not happen at my time, but my daughter is going to inherit that when it will happen. It's not a cause, that's the truth. Now, if they must budget, effective budget now, functional budgeting, they should go to individual communities. We have CDAs, we have government authorities. Let them talk to each area, identify their challenges, not just a blanket budgeting. Since I've been here, I've been living there now for 15 years. If year in, year out, they've been asking us our needs and they've been meeting our needs, perhaps today, we may no longer be on their budget list. Why? They will have given us everything we require to have abundant life. Yeah. You understand?
But you haven't still answered my question. But when we
I have answered your question.
We'll come back.
I have answered. Let me repeat the answer.
To take a break.
When we come back from this break, you will repeat your answer. Welcome back. Just before we continue, this mail came in from Victor Owo after I read those benefits for ex-governors and their deputies. Auntie Alera, you just gave me a headache reading all that. Who did this to us as a nation? And then he says, that is why I said all this must end. They should think about us now. I agree with you, Victor. I do agree with you.
Well, let me ask. I'll come back to you, Mr. Ario.
Before I
no, you won't forget. I know you won't forget. Mr. Ogumadu, same question.
Sorry, Mr. Odemuyiwa says, and we say we don't have money. Don't lie to us, he says. And we say we don't have money.
Well, there are some people that won't even listen to you. You say Nigeria doesn't have money. Meanwhile, oh God, don't even let me go to the Auditor General's report. But Mr. Ogumadu, that same question, how do we entrench a system that will be productive for the whole country, both for the people in office and those same people when they leave office, so that rather than ask for this, what you call morally emburdening jumbo pays, the nation works for everyone. What kind of system do we need to put in place to ensure that those monies do not go into private pockets through other means?
Okay, thanks again for that question. Thanks for that question. I found that question very important, even when you threw it at my colleague with you in the studio there. I think I have 2 or 3 recommendations, very quick ones. One, I would think that there should be a collaboration between the executive arms of government in those respective states and the legislative arms of government. The reason I say that is that it has taken the executive of those respective states in response to the agitation of the people, the protest and resentment of the people, to come by the policy. And then the legislature, having considered that it's not good, went ahead to repeal. That is the legislative aspect of what has happened. Now, for me, that meant that there's a meeting of the mind at that level. So why not collaborate? How do you collaborate? Let us do a fact check. And what I mean by that is that the respective governments that are taking these actions must be able to quantify in actual figures beyond prevarications what amount it took and still taking to fund these policies. For instance, in Lagos State, to build a house and build another one in Abuja, and all that Sister Lero has read on, used to cost us 800 million, 1 billion, and so on and so forth. Once we get that actual figure can now be targeted for deployment into a particular specific people-prone project. It could be completion of the rail system. It could be building of cottage. That way, we're able to measure it, we're able to identify it, and we're able to, as it were, assess the implementation of that funds that have been, if you like, retrieved from the state actors. The other aspect, which I found fascinating because the original idea, and that's why I wanted Mr. Surai to understand that we're all on the same page, is that a people organized around some civil society have found that this is not only reprehensible, it is oppressive. In my view, it is also discriminatory against Section 42 of the Constitution. These same people have gone beyond thinking about it, bemuning themselves, and then went to court. Others organized programs, lectures, seminars. These same people can therefore set up a monitoring team to say that in the year 2020, 200 naira was retrieved or saved or identified to be used in funding these profligacies. Now that the legislature has identified a budget head to which this fund can go in, let us, as it were, monitor the implementation of this budget. So from the angle of policy, from the angle of collaboration, and finally from the angle of monitoring, you are able to build a whole network that will ensure that by and large, the people are no longer shortchanged in these otherwise illegal policies and programs that left the people continually deprived of their entitlements in a pool of resources that ought to come to them. So I think it is a very important question, and in my view, if we're able to into these exercises, chances are that we will not regret this aspect of the struggle that has become a welcome development.
All right, Mr. Suraj, same question, but please talk to the systems that even allow this to happen in the first place.
you very much. The system that actually allowed this to happen is basically, number one, the docility on the part of many of our citizens. And I think also, unfortunately, for some of us in the civil society and the media, our lack of diligent, attention to some of the happenings at the state level, subnational government. We seem to focus so much on federal government and ignore the arbitrariness and dictatorial tendencies of governors at the state level. Also, now that you completely have the erosion and the complete removal of the local government from any form of tenets of democracy or elements of independence in governance. This actually emboldens the governors to simply just sit down, get the Attorney General or some other individuals to pass the law or draft the law for the House of Assembly. You remember in 2015, like I said, the speakers, after granting the same thing to the governors, also passed a resolution that they deserve, to have their own life pension as well as speakers and deputy speakers of the Houses of Assembly. And the Kano State House of Assembly just last year here went further to actually pass that law by the House of Assembly. So we are seeing a system that is gradually creating for itself. And I think it's rather unfortunate that we also see the same thing happening at the private sector level. Quite a number of private sector companies and organizations don't even remit the pensions that are deducted from their staff to the PENCOM. And at the time of retirement or whatever, they are simply just given a month's salary and have to go and fend for their life. So we lack that regulatory system that is monitoring what is happening both in the public life and also the private life to ensure that we don't have this level of arbitrariness. And the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, which is also granted the power to fix, the salaries and so other emoluments and benefits of public office holder, is completely turned to a mere, toothless bulldog that is incapable of also exercising its power by ensuring, because these are things that are within the remit of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. But the citizens rising up from the reality of the amount and the magnitude of resources that is expended on these characters, both within and outside office life, are already brazen up. And I'm happy that this is also a topic for today. We need to keep it up until we get the governors to actually do the right thing. We saw it happening in Zamfara. You can actually take it a little further to say, okay, because the new governor is actually from a different party from the immediate past governor. But that should all happen if in the list. In other states, in Imo State, you have a new governor from a different party. So in Imo is the same party. You have to say a different one from in Kwara. And by now, we should have something that is tangible happening in Kwara State. You have the governor in Rivers that is not in alignment with the former governor and also in different party. We should have something of that happening already in Rivers State. But unfortunately, many of them are also interested in that benefit as for them in their warped mentality as a form of security for them, when they also leave office. And this is where the citizens must actually make very serious demands on them to ensure that we don't only stop them from abusing and misusing public funds in the name of this pension and security vote, but the security lies in the ability of providing social infrastructure for the people. So everybody is becoming insecure. We saw what happened with the COVID-19.
Thank you, Mr. Suraj. Thank you, Mr. Suraj. We need to wind down now, so I need to take everyone's closing statement. In one sentence, Mr. Ario.
Can it be in one sentence?
Yes, it has to be.
This is blackmail.
We've run out of time.
Okay, very quickly, I'll say this. I am not going to be a party to duplicating institutions that will be monitoring compliance. No, compliance should automatically flow with execution. until we get to that point, we are joking. And for me, the same way EFCC had collected so much funds, and today, nobody can tell you the figure, nobody can tell you how they were appropriated and what they were spent on. It's still this failure of the system.
Malaki,
you can create 10, 20 more of such agencies. We won't be going anywhere.
Malaki Gumadu?
The security sought to be realized, even from steps like this, cannot be measured only in terms of the money recovered. The fact that a system is now gradually responding to the need of the people and saying that only a few percentage of state actors cannot take all the monies meant for everyone is already pointing in a better security, in that there is this sense of belonging by the people to whom these monies are now returned to. But more importantly, for me, in rounding off, is to insist that even the civil society organizations that are taking this up must follow it through. And to follow it through is to monitor what happens with this new policy statement and deployment of funds. Thank you.
Mr. Larry Suraj?
Thank you very much. I think part of the thing I would just want to correct was basically that we should also note that the money that was recovered by EFCC, without speaking for EFCC, is actually paid to the consolidated, account. So we need to put that information straight. We only have a completely disorganized government that is unable to take care of data information and then also hold itself accountable to the people, where they are offering, where they should be offering, very serious, detailed information in terms of accountability and transparency to the people. But like my brother Malaki said, it's important that we don't make it just...
Thank you very much, Mr. Suraj. Gentlemen, you all have enough time to prepare for the elections of 2023. I want to carry a card in 2023 that I belong to the office of the Friends of the Governor.
I'm going to push you. You're marrying the governor.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to marry the governor.
We had Mr. Oladende Ario, public affairs analyst, as well as Mr. Larry Suraj, who joined us via Zoom. He's also a public affairs analyst. And Mr. Malaki Ugumadu is a former president, CDHR. Thank you all very much, gentlemen, and get preparing for 2023. See you in just a moment with another very interesting topic.
All right. Last week, that announcement was made of the partial closure of the Lagos Island-bound lane of the 3rd Mainland Bridge between Adekunle to Adeniji Adede for the next 3 months. The announcement is coming after government says it has completed the first phase of the rehabilitation. It's a 6-month plan. First 3 months this side and first 3 months on the flip side. So how far so far, and where do we go from here? The General Manager of the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority joins us this morning, Mr. Olajide Odiye. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning.
And we also have Mr. Jide Ologun, who is a public affairs analyst. Thank you also for your time.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Yes, Jide, maybe you want to, give us a brief update. How far so far?
Well, thank you for that. The bridge work started on the 24th of July, and the promise to the nation or to the people of Lagos was that it was going to take 6 months. So 3 months for the first phase, which is now to deal with the joint repair from the Adeniji end of the bridge towards Oworosheki, but only up to Adekunle intersection. And then the following 3 months, which will be phase 2, will be from the Adekunle intersection towards Adeniji Adele on that section for the next 3 months. Lo and behold, we're supposed to be 1 month into the second phase, right? But the NSAS situation changed all that, and then there was a bit of rain that came up. So 1 month has been added to the plan, which is not good news, so to speak, for our normal commuters. But what needs to be done needs to be done. So instead of the work finishing at the end of January, the 24th as planned, it will now be ending on the 24th of February, 2021.
Any assurance that we'll not have an extra month again?
Well, in life and when these sort of things happen,
force majeure,
it's only God can give assurance of anything. The point is the work is on schedule, They're there on site, they're doing the work. So the plan as of today is that, yes, they'll finish by the end of February. And I don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen. Things have happened in Lagos. So many things happen. We didn't plan for Eco Bridge for repairs. It needed to be done. Bridge was closed, started repairing it. So anything can happen. We're in Nigeria.
Mr. Logan, I do crave your indulgence. I still need to stay with him for a bit. Yes. Mr. Dioye, I'm so happy you're here with us because we have so many questions to ask you.
As usual.
Now, can you please explain to me why there's so much traffic in Lagos at the moment, especially heading from the mainland to the island? Sometimes it takes as many as 3-4 hours to get from Ikeja to the center of Lagos Island.
How many hours do you have? But let me see how I can compress it. Traffic in Lagos is nothing new, all right?
It's getting worse.
Well, I'll explain why it's getting worse. In any major city, metropolitan city like Lagos, where you don't particularly have a mass transit movement system, you would always envisage that would happen. So that is Lagos for yourself. So we don't have passenger rail, and we don't have rail freight, all right? So what are the factors that cause major problems in Lagos? The truck drivers going to Apapa axis because the rail freight is not in existence. Commuters, mainly coming from the mainland area, obviously from Ogun State as well, everybody rushing, commuting towards Lagos Island. All the businesses, all the big people, all the big men, they're in Lagos Island. Everybody wants to rush in there. The Bible talks about affiliate yourself with the big people so that you can be big as well. Then you have major roadworks going on at the moment. Lagos State is working in Lagos. The federal government is working. So many roads are under repairs right now, or rehabilitation. Apapa Axis, Apapa Wodoshoki Express Road. We've talked about the 3rd Mainland Bridge, Eko Bridge, Ikorodu Road. And then you now mount other roads that are not being worked on, but they are bad. For example, even just one that is close to us, Maryland Independence Tunnel, that is so bad. Ojota Walk is going on, Mile 12 is going on, Apapa Wodoshoki is work that's going on. There are some patches there. And so when all these things happen, you now have where you have 2 lanes, 3 lanes compressed or turned into 1 lane. And everyone is going. Now, the sudden increase in the traffic flow from mainland, especially in the 3rd Mainland Bridge, and even the alternative routes, which is now Ido Axis or Eko Bridge, it's because a lot of commuters, the fact that there are few buses, as in BRT buses, on the road. So they have gone back now to go and take their cars, because those that are riding the buses, which is where the government wanted to be, where we all need to be, is that leave your cars at home and use BRT. It is faster, it's more convenient. Now, we have burnt a few of those buses, so the supply is limited. People have gone back into their cars, and they're now sort of like increasing the existing problem. Now, when the changeover happened last weekend, mind you, that the free flow of traffic from the mainland towards Lagos Island is free flow. There's no diversion, all right? So that has changed now. So the free flow is those coming from the Lagos Island, coming towards Wodoshoki. Now the Lagos bound, which is even a higher traffic because of the number of hours in between. And I'll explain. In the morning when you go to work, you need to be at work for 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30 at most. So everyone is leaving home at a certain period, maybe 6, because of safety. You can't leave home at 5 or whatever, especially if you're female or elderly. You have to leave around 6:30. So everybody is compressed like that. However, the first 3 months, 4 months now, they had the space from 1 p.m. till closing time of 5 before the commuters coming back. So, but you've already had a lot of traffic going over the 3rd Mainland Bridge. But now in the morning, you now have to divert. One, any diversion, traffic tails back, and then you have the other going back into Fin. And so when you look at the two brought together, you're bound to find queue length of traffic going back all the way to 7-Up.
Okay.
And that's what's going on.
Well, erudite as that sounds, Mr. Logan, so many roads being fixed at the same time. Alternative roads, not particularly pleasant. And the idea of fixing the roads, definitely, especially such a critical road as the Third Mainland Bridge, no doubt something that has to be done. Do you think we thought it through properly to have all of these massive work going on at the same time? The federal government on the one hand and the state government on the other hand in the same city, or the most populous or about the most populous in the country?
Brilliant question. And I want to approach it from the fact that this maintenance is necessary now. And if it is not done, we may have a total collapse. And it's about our having the infrastructure overwhelmed by the population growth rate, by the expanding business activities. But that's a discussion for another day. Historically, the Qatar Bridge was constructed in 1901, then dismantled around the 1960 where we gained independence. The Eko Bridge, one of the three bridges connecting the island with the mainland, was constructed between 1965 and 1975. The Third Mainland Bridge we're talking about, the first phase was commissioned by Alhaji Shehu Shagari in 1980, and the completion by IBB in 1990. And as at that point in time, it was monumental. The longest bridge in Africa, until Cairo broke that in 1996. All right. And what should have happened is for us to carry out sustained maintenance that will not bring us to the point where we need to shut it down for a long time to effectively maintain. And having said that also, we are expected to have had more than 3 bridges linking the island with the mainland if we forecasted the business interaction that would take place between the two. And I must commend Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu for that vision. He came up with the vision of the Fourth Mainland Bridge that was to commence in 2017 and be completed in 2019. But here we are. And I think it was to cost about 840-something billion naira. And today you look at the dollar rate, which we have not started. But that's a good news. By the special grace of God, I have a team that can source for financing for that Fourth Mainland Bridge if the government really wants it done. And that brings us to the issue of development. You know now that the United Nations...
Sorry, but before you go to that one, very, very interesting, I have to say, but there is something critical that you talked about, and that's the maintenance. First is the culture. Second is the system. You talked about those bridges that were built and the fact that they were built and left there. No system to ensure that they are maintained, roll off the asphalt after some time, relay the asphalt and all of that, especially for a city like Lagos. If we do not evolve that system, what Mr. Dioye is contending with now would be piecemeal compared to what will happen to us in another 10 years. What do we need to do to strengthen those systems?
We need to make our system effective and operational, not just have them in place. I use an example. We moved to Washington from Columbia. And when we were going, there was nothing happening on the road, no potholes, nothing. But when we were coming back late in the night, we saw construction work going on with their lights, not disturbing traffic. And I asked my nephew, hey, Chuni, what's going on here? He said, Uncle, they're trying to fix it. That on their maintenance register, that road must have expired. Without potholes, without nothing. So you find...
Wait, say that again.
Yes, that road must have expired. So you find a government...
So how many expired roads do we have in
if we start that discussion now... and I'll give you...
All roads are expired.
I will
in
give
Lagos
you...
at the moment.
Yes.
The only one that is not expired, maybe Bodilon, Afedrowani, we're doing Papa Oshodi Expressway right now.
Not Alfred Rowani.
Alfred Rowani is not expired.
Have you seen the potholes on that road? It is among the roughest roads in Lagos.
Alfred Rowani in Ikoyi?
Yes.
No.
Farmer Kingsway Road.
It's been resurfaced, so it's spray. So it's not expired. To date, it's
I
not
was on that
expired.
road this morning.
We are road people. We are road
I was
people.
on that road this morning, sir,
What
between
kind of
Falomo
vehicle are you driving?
and
Shock absorber uncle?
and a brand new SUV,
okay,
belonging to Channels Television.
All right.
Between Falomo and Glover Road, the road is very rough.
Okay, we'll fix it. Babaji, this will fix it. We'll fix it. It's not expired.
But you are saying now that of all the roads that we have, very few are not expired.
That is an affirmative.
Please continue.
Okay, let me just answer your question straight away.
No, I'm just, that's the information that we needed. So.
I think I can make reference to what I have witnessed in recent times. In the course of the last few days, I visited Elisha in Osun State, and you needed to come and see the kind of roads that are in that region. Recently, I was in Enugu, Abia State, and Akwa Ibom. And I must say, Akwa Ibom has fantastic roads. Abia, I don't want to talk about it. Enugu. So we have these challenges in the country. And it has to do with the governance mindset. The governance mindset in the US is that people need to move. In fact, I moved to Canada from the US by road, 12 hours. I keep thanking God for that experience. You see, and you see how the nation is connected by roads. And it supports your economic activities. We talk about food crisis in Nigeria. We have food wasting in the hinterland. Yeah. How do you move them to where they are needed? How do you process them? And I will link that also with our governance mindset. For example, the United States of America government cannot imagine that people live in communities without electricity. So for them, it's a fundamental human right that you should have electricity. But look at our country. I think the first power station that was installed in Lagos, in Broad Street, was in 1898. And today we are still struggling to provide electricity. So we need to go back to the spirit of the Constitution. If you read Section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution, 1999 as amended, it says that the state shall harness the resources to provide maximum happiness. Provide, I like
that maximum happiness part, but I'd like to hear more of it when we return from this break. Please stay with us. Well, thanks for staying with us. We still have Mr. Ologun and Mr. Diore here. So, just a very quick one on this expired roads. It's the maintenance that worries me more than even the fact that they're expired. Is there a system of ensuring that we cut down on the man-hour spent on the roads by fixing the roads and ensuring that they do not get bad before they expire, while people use them?
I think
it's just a system thing.
Yeah, I think like Mr. Logan said, there's no system anywhere that does not require finance. You've got to be able to afford. You must put money aside for certain things. And unfortunately, the maintenance regime in our country over any sphere of our lifestyle is very poor, I must say. It doesn't matter whether it's just about the roads. Just look at the kind of vehicles that we put on the road. We don't even personally, we don't want to maintain our vehicles because we think we have other more important things to do, forgetting that this vehicle that we're putting on the road, we rely on it. So when they break down on the road, it will come and cause the congestion. So if you don't maintain the road as the government should do and put money aside in the budget, it's not a budget of just putting money there and then use it for something else. This is like a must because why? It borders on safety and the preservation of lives. Because if the road is bad, one simple pothole and the street light goes off and you don't see it at night, and you're a female driver, and you go into that pothole, your vehicle, your tire is going to get busted. So where exactly are you supposed to park to repair or to change that tire? So your life is already in danger. Yeah. So it's not just a matter of issue of traffic buildup. It's a safety issue. And we're not taking it serious enough. And that is the truth. The system that's supposed to be in place is the manner of a road use, which is now the traffic volume on a particular road, will tell you the maintenance regime on it. The classification of vehicles, if lorries are using it, buses are using it, and cars. So the volume determines, because the more weight you put on asphalt, that is more as it wears down on the thing. So there are certain roads that every month, there must be a team going out to check. In fact, there are some classes of roads there must be a team that goes out every night. You see one small pothole, before it degenerates into a bigger crate, you quickly fix it. That is maintenance. Because one small pothole, when it rains, within 1 hour, when it rains heavily, begins to heat up.
Well, why are we not doing that?
Why are we not doing it? Why are we not doing it? That's a major question. We're not doing it right now because someone has not said this money allocated for this purpose for each budget year. You cannot touch it for something else. It must go in there. We collect tolls at certain roads. Why are we not using the tolls to maintain those roads, whatever it is? Why are we not doing that? Because you see, you can't just tax everyone. Not everyone has a car or go on the road. Of course, we need movement. But there are people who walk. But for those of us who drive, we must contribute towards the passageway that we enjoy.
Okay. Well, very, very quick one. There was something Alera said earlier, and I think this borders on road management itself, the traffic management itself, and that's the fact that, she said earlier that, she'll get to certain points, what in the world is the reason for this traffic? And then you get there, what do you find? Nothing. Just commuter buses, parking in the middle of the road, stopping where, of course, unorthodox places just to pick passengers and all of that. How do you address that? Especially when you see last mile officers there and they seem helpless to take care of this.
Well, I'm not sure if you listened to the news. There was a riot act that was read by the Commissioner of Transport last week, Dr. Fedola Dende, obviously following the concerns from Mr. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. And we read the riot act to them. We invited them in because at the end of the day, people would say, are you collaborating with these people? Because they're a union, NURTW, RTEAN. And they were at the meeting, right? And at that meeting, I asked a specific question of them. I said, you're not the only association in this country. Why is it that you're the only association that is collecting its dues on the road? All right? That's number one. Number two, the game must change. We've been relying on yellow bus, small commuter transportation for a 10 million commuter kind of people, or over 20 million people in a state that is covered into the ocean. We don't even have land space like Abuja where you can say population growth can expand across and you still be part of the city. Here, we're just cornered to the sea. So except we're walking backwards towards Ogun State, it's like we are choked in here. Okay, so that is the case. Why are we in a system that we are relying majorly on yellow buses, the downfall to commuters? Why? And this has been going on from the day I knew the sky was blue. And we're still there. So something is missing. And I will say it because it is missing. It cannot, as long as we depend on the unregulated operation of the yellow buses, as long as there's individual interests, as long as the hustling spirit is inside every individual, that problem that you've just mentioned is more than likely. Because why? LASMA will stand there.
And who is supposed to regulate this unregulated?
The government. The government is supposed to regulate. Minister of Transport is supposed to regulate.
Okay.
We just have numbers and everything. When I say regulate, I mean you just can't go and buy a bus. You just can't go and buy a bus and place it on the road because your interest will be different from mine. And when you get there before me, if I feel I can pick up passengers before you, that's what I'm going to be doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Logo.
Now, before you go to Mr. Logo.
Yeah, because we need to round up. No, go ahead.
How old should a car be before it begins to go for roadworthiness test? And I ask this because some cars that look like new are being asked for their roadworthiness tests, and beside them, I see worn-out trucks and downfall buses with no windscreen. Sometimes they just put nylon sheets in the back as a back screen, and those they don't get any penalty for not being roadworthy. But seemingly new cars are being pulled aside that you have not got your roadworthiness certificate. Where is it?
Technically speaking, roadworthiness should apply to every vehicle on the road.
Even a brand new car?
Yes, even a brand new car. Because brand new cars break down too. And
but they're roadworthy?
No. They're not roadworthy until the certificate says it is roadworthy. And I'll give you an example of why that is the case. If you bought a brand new car today, let's say, for example, a Camry, Toyota Camry, and now buy the same Toyota Camry, But you're using yours privately just to go to work, you commute to work, you go to the market, supermarket, and you come back home. You're not running your Camry over. And I use mine for Uber. I am on the road, piling up mileage, going on these so-called bad roads and expired roads every single day. At the end of 6 months, what state will your vehicle be in and what state will mine be in?
Brand new.
Exactly. Right? You know what I'm saying? So if I now make that same argument, that why you're not dealing with my sister asking for roadworthiness and you're asking me, how does that par out?
But does that mean that these trucks with the nylon sheets are still roadworthy even though they get a certificate?
They're not roadworthy. When you say
but they're on the roads.
You should pull them in.
They are pulling them in.
Okay.
It's only because you're not seeing it. A lot of people say, oh, the same thing they will say, last month it's not arresting yellow buses. And I keep on asking them, who is offending? I have over 2,000 offenders, yellow buses in a single day. How many would I arrest? Where would we put them?
Okay.
And people say, oh, you only arrest private car. The point is, we can appeal to private car owners because they have a better understanding. They're not hustling. They're not looking for money or whatever. So you're just astounded that they will be the ones to be doing wrong things.
Believe me,
so
they're looking for money as well. But yes, Mr. Lugo, let's just wrap this up very quickly. Let's wrap this up because we're completely out of time. But going forward, as a government, as a people, what would be your recommendation?
We need regulations. Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says that the security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. I cannot imagine a damn full bus driving into New York in the state it is. It's not even allowed.
How could you say that?
I mean, let's be realistic. We compared our pump price of petroleum with that of Saudi Arabia. We can compare. If you don't benchmark yourself with the developed country, you are not likely to develop.
Okay.
Things work out there. Regulations.
Where is that comparison getting us?
You see, if for example, our parents did not embark on that journey, many of us will not be educated today. We need to learn. Our leaders travel. And it should be easier and greater for them to develop Nigeria. You need to, sir, Singapore left Malaysia in 1965. A poor country.
See where they are
today is one of the best countries to live and to work in the world.
I could sit here
Look at
and listen to you.
You see, so what we need to do, we need to regulate the environment.
Okay.
You see, if some people have created their pseudo-government and they are frustrating the government, it is deliberate. I keep asking the question, why should we allow them, whether for personal reasons or whatever reasons?
Well, Mr. Logo,
if Lagos is a mega city, we need to witness that status.
Yeah.
There's a huge... Any state that is next to the ocean and disorganized.
We really have to go now.
So it's
but
we need to wake up.
We have to really thank you very much for this morning. Mr. Deregulation is a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much.
God bless Nigeria.
And the general manager of Lagos State Traffic Management Authority. I've learned that one. So roads do expire. Okay. Mr. Olajide Odioye, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. We are taking the next guy now.
Home stretch.
Yes, right now. So, who are we? Who is our guest of the week?
Well, I did say something about him at the beginning.
Yes, you did.
Nigerian. He grew up here and in the UK.
Born hip-hop musician.
And then he went to Australia. But in the meantime, we shall get to the home stretch after this break while we release.
No, let's break. Let's go. Let's go on. Okay.
Okay. His name is Trademark.
Okay.
And is a Nigerian-born hip-hop musician. He's currently based in Australia. Yes. He's currently based in Australia.
His name is Trademark. I believe that he will have joined us by now. Can we?
Trademark, are you there? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Yo.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah.
It's somewhere in Australia, isn't it? Trademark?
Yeah, that's right.
It's somewhere in Australia. Why do you have a fur on?
I beg your pardon?
Why do you have a fur on in summer?
Well, it's spring and it's a little cold.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's always cold. It's always cold up in my crib. You know. Yeah, plus I have to look good for the camera. I have to look good for you guys. You know?
He's got to look good for the camera. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, God. McDonald, Emianto. Is that how to say your surname?
That's right.
Great. Now, tell us.
You know, however you say it, you know, you say it. I'm happy with it.
Okay. McDonald, born in Nigeria, raised in the UK, and then you traipsed off to Australia. I mean, what's going on here?
Most definitely. That's
what's going on.
I move, you know, I make boss moves. You know, I'm never stagnant. I'm always moving. You know, I'm not, you know, rigid at all. You know, I'm happy to embrace change. There are a lot of people that, you know, don't want to move. They get stuck, you know, wherever they're at. You know, with me, I'm happy to move, you know, so that's probably what it is. So wherever the sea change takes me is where I'm going to go. So yeah, it's a big story. It's a big story over there, but you know, we're not even, you know, going to go into that right now because it depends on if you have like an hour or two for us to start, you know, really dissecting, you know, the reason why I came to Australia and, you know, how I found myself in this position.
Okay, now McDonald, just give us a second. We'll be right back to continue this discussion with you. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. We still have McDonald Emianto with us, better known as Trademark. Now, Trademark, we won't go into your wanderings around the world, but let's talk about your music. When you survived that great big car crash in the UK, did you feel like the Lord had a purpose for your life?
Actually, that car crash was in Nigeria, but yeah, I do feel like, you know, I was given a second chance, you know, at life, because not a lot of people have a car crash and then come out alive, you know, without a scratch. But, you know, even though I was, you know, in a coma for, I think about 3 days or so, I feel like, you know, I was given a second chance, most definitely. And, you know, right now, I'm just trying to make the very most of that second chance that I was given, not to take it for granted.
Now, hip-hop music in Australia, tell us about that. How is your music received?
Hip-hop music in Australia is great, you know. Suffice to say that hip-hop music hasn't actually been big over here just because, you know, there are a lot of things, you know, instrumental to that, or rather the reason for that, you know what I'm saying? Black people, there's not a lot of black people in Australia, and there's a lot of racism in Australia. And in fact, I feel like there are most places that you go to in Australia, they purposely play, you know, doof music just to turn black people off, because they know that black people don't like that kind of music. So they deliberately play that sort of music so that black people don't go there. So hip hop over here is non-existent until, you know, Trademark came along. Trademark came along, and Trademark, like, you know, established hip hop in Australia, and Trademark now is a household name in Australia. And, you know, all of a sudden, everyone is embracing hip-hop now, and suddenly people want to listen to hip-hop.
So what is the message of Trademark's music?
The message of Trademark's music is clear and succinct. It's a message of hope in a time of despair. You know, given that I've come from nothing, I've come from quite a lot of, you know, hardship. You know, I have been at rock bottom. I built a multi-million-dollar corporation with just minus $20 in my bank account. You know, I'm at a position where I'm at right now that I feel like, you know, I can inspire people. I used to brush my teeth at KFC bathroom, reclining my car seat, you know, to fall asleep, you know, in the middle of winter. And I had nothing. And the message is clear, you know, it's a twofold. One is boss life, the life of luxury, you know, the wealthy mindset and everything that I represent or I epitomize. And the other is for the underdogs, those people who are still struggling, those people who are at the place I was back in my time, you know what I'm saying?
That's a great one there, boss move. Now, I want to assume that you have plans to make the boss move to help some other people come up and become big fishes like you, especially from this part of the country. Is that correct? this part of the world.
I've been doing something like this for I'm giving out here thousands of dollars, on a weekly basis to my phone. I'm just
Not sure I can hear you well. Trademark, if you can adjust the audio so we can hear you better.
The music is playing. That's why perhaps you're not hearing me as clearly as as you should. But I'm trying to speak. Is this better now?
So much better. Good.
Oh, right. Awesome. So what I'm saying is, in response to your previous question, I have been trying to help a lot of my fans as much as I can, through my social media platforms, sending them money, giving them giveaways every weekend. In fact, throughout the entire pandemic.
No, I'm talking about maybe there are musicians in this part in Nigeria or UK or wherever you have been that you're trying to also raise to also help them, mentor them into music, and maybe encourage what you're doing or support what you're doing in Australia or wherever they themselves may be. Is there any mentorship program going on from your side?
Well, in terms of mentoring, I'm always for the underdog. I've always tried to support the underdog wherever, possible. Throughout this whole pandemic, I've been reaching out to a lot of people. There are a few people out there that I spotted that, they have a lot of talent. So what I'm doing is, I'm teaching them the marketing side of things, the business side of things, trying to take them away a little bit from that creative mindset, get away from the studio, get away from the music for a minute, and then try and focus on, the business and understand how corporations work. Because I've run a very successful corporation in my time, so I can apply the same method to music. So I'm trying to, show these guys that, they can learn business, they can learn branding. They have to think about their brand's key. How are you perceived in the marketplace? And what is your message out there? How you positioning yourself? I'm trying to teach them about unique value propositions and all of that sort of stuff. What's the unique value proposition for their brand? The UVPs and stuff like that. So there are a few, sessions that I do on my Instagram account, but it's just very sporadic. I pick an artist and I tell them, reach out to me. I'm going to go live at so time, and I'm going to teach you a thing or two about the music business.
Okay, Trademark, thank you very much for being our guest today. Trademark, whose real name is McDonald Emiantor, a Nigerian who grew up in Nigeria and the UK and then has moved to Australia and is making waves in Australia with his hip-hop music. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we wish you all the best out there down under. So that is Sunrise for this day. We shall bring you a fresh edition next week. I'm Alero Edu saying to you, be safe and drive with care.
And I'm Ayo Makide. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.